Grab your favorite fabric and your favorite cup of tea. Today we're sewing something that you'll want to make again and again. It's great for gifts. I'm going to be making these for my upcoming craft show in November. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I'm Jackie and I love using scrap fabric to make scrap fabric quilt blocks, quilt as you go blocks, and other scrap fabric projects. In today's video, I will be showing you how I'm making my quilted book sleeve with a pocket and a snap. This one finishes at 9.5 by 11.5 inches. I wanted to make it a little larger so that I could have my Bible in here as well as my tablet, because I use those both for Bible study. So I wanted them both in here. And so that's why I went a little larger. This is my prototype and it has a little handle. It will be so easy to assemble. This is perfect for destashing your yardage, or you can use quilt blocks that you already have made. It would be perfect for that as well. I'll be making a lot of these for my upcoming craft show in November, and I would love your feedback on what you would charge for a larger one. I want to make them affordable. Some of the fabrics I was gifted, but some of them I did purchase, and I'll show you some of those in a moment. The cutting will take you the longest time. After that, assembly is a breeze. I'm going to bring you down to the sewing table and show you some of the fabrics that I've selected. And remember, no rules, no perfection allowed here. As you can see here, I wanted to embroider some labels to put on here. I just can't get the hang of it. I did try some muslin as well, and that did not turn out, but you can kind of see here. I'm not happy with that, but this one is mine anyway. If anyone has any tips for using those characters on your home sewing machine, I would just love some tips. I did switch out to an embroidery needle. I thought that would help. That did not help. I switched out to embroidery thread, and I just got a tangled mess with that. I do have interfacing on the back of this label. So anyway, guys, if you have any tips for that, I would truly appreciate it. In this basket, I have a fabric stash that was gifted to me by my dear friend Kathy, and I'm going to be using some of these to make them. This will make a beautiful lining fabric. And that's what I used for the inside of this one. And this is what I used for the outer fabric. Now keep in mind, you can use quilted blocks that you already have. That will work, whatever you want to use. You want to make them your own. This is really cute, isn't it? And I really like this. I thought this one was really pretty. This one is really cute. And you all know that I love florals. I thought this would make a pretty lining fabric. And here's some more florals. Look at the roses. And this one, and strawberries. How cute is that? So I have that. I did go to Hobby Lobby and I bought some fabrics. It was a sale day, so I'll be using some of these as well. There's that one. But the reason I selected these ones is, see how they already have quilt blocks? So I can just sew around these blocks and they'll look like that they are real blocks. So that was the reason for picking up these ones. And this one, I just love the teal and the blacks together. And yes, florals again. But with this one, I think I can get 2 out of this, but see how it already has blocks on it? I love that. And there's this one, and I did pick up some more muslin because some of the linings, I may just make muslin. And look how beautiful this is. And this one has labels on them already. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. So this whole piece of fabric has just different sayings on them. And again, I can just sew along and it'll look like it was quilted by block. and then I picked up another one. So I think I spent $35 for this pile here, which is not bad at all. And because I couldn't get this label to work, that's fine. I have a ton of these printed. I printed these on my home printer, and then I will just blanket stitch around, and that will be beautiful on there. So we'll go with that until I can figure out this stitching. Before I go over the cutting, I did want to tell you about these snaps. The reason I never used snaps before is because I didn't like using the tool and trying to figure it out. These snaps, which I will link in my Amazon storefront, do not require any tool. You'll just use your awl to punch your hole like this, and I will show you when we get to that point. And then this snaps to this just by the press of your hand. No extra strength required, and you just press them, and they are tough. They are not coming off. How cool is that? And then I already told you about this twill. This is 1.5 inches, and this is in my Amazon storefront as well. All right, let's go over the cutting. First, for the outer fabric, you will need 2 cut at 10.5 by 12.5. This is the outer fabric that I chose, and I have 2 of those. Next, you'll need 2 pieces of batting cut to 9.5 by 11.5. And the reason I made my batting smaller is it makes it easier for me to sew around, and then I don't need a walking foot. I can just zip around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I know that all of you will appreciate that too. We're trying to make this easy, right? So there's that. I will be quilting these pieces. Each piece will get a piece of batting. I will center it to the back. We'll get that off there, and this and this. And I'll just do some simple quilting. It may be 2 inches apart at a diagonal, whatever you're feeling for the day. So that's the first thing we need to do, is just get these quilted. Next, for the lining, I have 2 pieces of lining that measure 10.5 by 12.5 inches. Each piece of lining gets a lightweight interfacing. I'm all out of my P44 F from Pellon, so I just picked up a roll of this 911 FF fusible featherweight interfacing. So I'm hoping that this will work. I really like my lightweight, but I am totally out of it and I need to order some. And again, I cut that shorter. The interfacing is 9.5 inches by 11.5 inches. I'm just gonna center that, iron that on, and there's that. Next, for the pocket, the outside pocket, I have a 10.5 inch by 18 inch piece of fabric. I'm going to fold it. This will be the top, and then I will sew across about a 1/2 inch down, just so it looks like it was sewn together. And then I have a piece of interfacing for that, measuring 9.5 by 8. And don't be confused here. What happened was I just wanted to use up the interfacing. I don't like to waste it. So this will be, again, the interfacing would be 9.5 by 8 inches. And then I will take this I will open this up, place this in here, iron according to the instructions on the package, and this will be ready. Next is our little flap, or closure, if you will. It is 2 pieces like this, but I just folded it over because what I'm going to do is trace around the outside. So you want your fabric right sides together. I put interfacing on one side, and I'm making a mess here. Don't be messy like me. Just like that. I made it so that you just have to sew around here. This is 3 by 5, and then all you'll do is round the corner off. You could use a glass or something like our teacup here, and trace around to get that rounded end. Whatever you need to do to get it, and that's all I did. So 3 by 5, 2 pieces of fabric, but if you want to use one and fold it over, trace it, sew on the line, that's what we're going to do. And then we talked about a label if you want to have a label on yours, and your handle if you're using a handle. And like I said, cutting is the longest step. When I go to start making these, I'm going to clean off the kitchen table, and I am just going to cut all my pieces, lay everything out, and do some batch sewing. That will save time. I think that's it. You could switch out the pocket to be different on this one. The pocket will be different. So we'll see how that kind of looks. Just make it your own. Now is the time to just start sewing and getting everything ready. I'm going to sew my flap or my closure, and I'm going to leave the bottom open. So sew all the way around. That's so we can turn it inside out. Once I have that done, I'll be right back. All right, I sewed all the way around, and I am going to cut about a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around with my pinking shears. Then cut the bottom, and then we'll turn it inside out. Roll out your seams just like that. Give it a good press, and your flap is done, just like that. That is done. We can put that to the side, and then I am going to iron the interfacing to my pocket. I'm going to sew about a 1/2 inch seam allowance right across the top on the folded line, not where it is open at the bottom. Just like this. Here is my seam along the top. I'm going to add my label, and you'll just want to figure out where you want that label. Do you want it down a little bit? And then you can measure on both sides. That's 3 inches there, and about 3 inches there. And I'm just going to put a couple dabs of glue to hold that, just like that. I think I will do a blanket stitch all the way around. When I have that done, I'll be right back. And our label is on, and I did leave a little bit of a raw edge. I do want a little bit of fraying over time. I like that look, but if you wanted, you could fold the edges down of your label, and that would be perfectly fine. Next, we'll get our lining ready, and again, getting that ready, all we're going to do is iron the fusible interfacing on there, and I'll do that, and I'll be right back. Before I do any quilting on my outer fabric, I'm just going to use a little bit of school glue and base that a little bit so it doesn't shift on me. Just little dots. And then I'll give it a quick press with the iron, and then I'll just put some diagonals on this. No heavy duty quilting, but you can do as much as you like. And again, like I said, you could use some of those orphaned quilt blocks that you have. Use those up. We want to use what we have, right? Move this over a little bit. That's why I said it's probably a good idea if you're going to make a bunch of these. Clear off a table and get all your fabric cut, and then do all the quilting of your outer fabric if you're quilting it. Just go in an assembly line, and you'll have a bunch of these ready to give as gifts in no time. I am going to give this a press, do some quilting, and I'll be back with you. The two outer pieces have been quilted, I just love this fabric. The next step is going to be to connect. Now this is not usual, but I'm going to show you a new technique. We're going to put our liner and our backing right sides together. Let me bring you out here. See what I've done? Backing, liner, right sides together. Whichever one is going to be the back, we want to now take our handle or our closure, and we're going to just lie it in there, and we want to center it because my last one was not centered. So we need to measure. What do we have here? I think I want it at 4. I think that's what we said. That's 4, but that's 3.5. So maybe 3 3/4. So let's measure what 3 3/4 would be. Find my marking pen here. So 3 3/4 is right there. And I don't want that much sticking out. Maybe about a 1/4 inch sticking out. Now if that's 3 3/4, then this should be 3 3/4 on this side. And we are going to pin the tops. We're only going to sew along the top edge. Just like that. The most important part is make sure that the top edges are lined up. Let's go over here and make sure these are lined up. Okay. And if I look here, this needs to come up. You just want to get those lined up. And it's going to be a little off because we did that quilting on the outer fabric. All right, and we've got our closure in there lined up nicely. And we just want to take a peek. There we go. I know this is not the usual way to do it, but it really worked out nice on my prototype. This one, what we need to do is again line it up at the top, pin it, pin as much as you need to. We're going to go to the sewing machine and we're just going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance at the top of both of these. And this looks like this. We've just got that little closure sticking out, the raw edge, and then that's the inside. Just like that. I'm going to go sew that and I'll be right back. Now where my closure is, I did go and do a couple stitches over that. I just want to secure that. Back from the sewing machine. And it looks like this. And this. We've got our liner right here. Let's flip this around. So the flap is on this side. So what we want to do is take our pocket now, place it face up, because this is actually the top of our book sleeve. Try to bring you down to see that. This is the top of our book sleeve. So we want our pocket to be right there. Just line that up the best you can. So you'll just put your pocket opposite where the flap is. I'm just going to stick some pins where that is. And we're almost there, I promise. It would be really cute if you took this fabric and you did some patchwork for the pocket. I should have thought of that. All right, the next step, let's turn this back around here. Whoops. Yep, that's what I want. Okay, let me take you back down to the table. We have liner fabric on the bottom. We have the outer fabric on the top. Let's put these right sides together. Line the bottom up. And what I'm going to do is mark a line so I can get my hand in there, and that's usually how I mark it. I want to leave that open. We're going to sew all the way around. The rest of it, go ahead and pin. And when you sew all the way around, a good 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then where the seams are, this seam wants to go this way because of the flap, and that's fine. So I want to make sure that this seam on the bottom is going the other way, and it is, but I want to match up the seams and pin that. Flip this over, and this is down, and this seam goes the other way, which is perfect. And by us not taking this batting all the way to the edge and the interfacing all the way to the edge, we don't have all that bulk, and you can use a regular 1/4 inch presser foot. All right, and then where my pocket is, I can see my pins. I'll just pull that out. I'll finish pinning, and then I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, sew all the way around, 1/4 inch seam allowance, again leaving an opening at the bottom. When I have that done, I'll meet you back here. I almost forgot to tell you guys, right above the pocket, let me open this up. There's our pocket. We need to put our handle in there. And you can just lay it in there, and I went about 1 inch up from my pocket, and then I left a little bit out so I can trim that off. But we almost forgot that. That's pretty important. And just lay that in there flat. There we go. And then we'll put all this back. Pin our pocket. There we go. Because our pocket is on the quilted part. I just wanted to tell you that. I almost forgot. Okay guys, I'm back from the sewing machine. I just want to tell you that I did double stitch right here where my handle is. And then I did back stitch along the top seams. Hopefully you can see that. Anywhere I think that there'll be stress, And then I'm going to trim off this little piece of handle here. I'll trim off a little piece of this that's hanging out. There's that. Now what we need to do is turn this inside out. I'm just going to reach in. And I did backstitch at my opening. So just make sure you backstitch at your openings. Try to get my hand in there. I don't think I left my hole big enough, but there we go. And then just poke that. Oh, I forgot to snip the corners. Yes, don't forget to snip your corners, but don't snip the seam. There we go. Now we can turn this inside out. Okay, poke that corner and pull that through the hole. And I just pulled off my inner facing, so I'll need to re-iron that. Almost got it here. Okay. And then get your pokey tool. Poke those corners out. And in my case, I'll need to re-iron my interfacing. There we go. And poke out our pockets. And then there's our handle. And then I'm going to go repress this, and then I need to close up the hole, and I'm simply going to take it to my sewing machine. I'll fold this down. And then I'll be back with the final steps. All right, I've got the hole closed, and then I've pressed that. And then I'm just going to sew 1/8 of an inch away and close up that hole. I've got that closed up at the bottom. And now all we need to do is pull open our outer fabric and push the liner down in there. Take our pokey tool. Poke that liner down there. It is lined, and then all we need to do is line up our fabric here like that, and grab some clips and just go around to the seams and do the same thing. And on this side, and then we'll come back here and do it. And all we're going to do after we get this clipped, we'll sew I think I'll do 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And then we will be all set. Just make sure that our liner is in there all the way. Just like that. Hopefully you can see in there. Nice clean liner. I'm going to go sew all the way around. How darling is that? We did it. All we need to do is add our snaps, And it does come with an awl if you don't have one. So what you're going to do first is figure out where you want this to come to. You could do it a little higher if you have a thicker book, or you think. I think I'll just do, how about an inch up from the edge. And then I'm just going to make it even right there at 1.5. So I'll just make a mark there. At 1.5. And then we'll just punch a hole there. And then there are instructions in here as far as which ones to use. And then you just snap it on. There we go. And then what you're going to do, we said it was going to be an inch, about right there. Then I just press on this one and it will leave a mark, and just press in the center there. And then you're going to grab this one, come in from this side, and then you'll find one that snaps into here. And that one's going to look like that. And you'll know. And then you just put these two together. Let's see if I can do it right away this time. There we go. And then these two snap right on. And then you are done. You have a beautiful Bible book sleeve. It's larger, so you can carry your tablet in there if you'd like. And again, change it up. You could make this pocket so that it's just patchwork or your favorite quilt block. How fun would that be? And there's a lot of room in the pocket. Just like that. I will leave the dimensions I'm using for this sleeve down in the description box below. And if you have any questions at all, you just let me know, okay? I know I tend to go kind of fast, and I just want you to be able to make these things, and I want you to make them in the easiest way possible with what you have. Before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a Bible verse and a final thought to encourage you. The Bible verse today is from Psalm 18, verses 32 and 33. It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the feet of deer and sets me on my high places. Even when our paths feel uneven or unsure, God is the one who steadies us and gives us the strength to keep moving forward. Just as each stitch comes together to form something beautiful, God is quietly working in the fabric of our lives, guiding our steps with purpose and grace. Thank you so much for watching, commenting, and sharing. It truly means the world to me. And until the next video, God bless you.